Welcome back. Actually, I've just been reading a piece in Il Sole 24 Ore, Monday's edition, to the effect that in Rome for the Jubilee this past December and January, as in Milan for the Winter Olympics, short-term accommodation bookings are down. Turns out that these international events aren't as popular as was supposed. And not just for visitors. Going back to the host selection process, local votes at Calgary in Canada and Sion in Switzerland led both to withdraw their bids, while Graz in Austria withdrew its candidature instead of consulting the public. For the Milano-Cortina Games, there was no public referendum. The list of Games sponsors reinforces the impression. No fewer than 10 of their premium partners are actually state or publicly owned, at least in part, including the oil company Eni, the energy utility Enel, the National Railway and Postal Services, and the company providing communications equipment, Leonardo, majority owned by the Italian state. In fact, an investigation by the newspaper Domani alleges that current Italian Defence Minister Guido Crosetto was a consultant for Leonardo from 2018 to 2021, earning €1.8 million. Leonardo's tentacles extend across the globe, including to Edinburgh, where Scottish Green City Councillor Ben Parker uncovered a bizarre story.
Leonardo have a factory site in Edinburgh, and this is where they produce components which are used in the fighter jets which are being used as part of the genocide in Palestine at the moment.
The campaign against the arms trade website confirms this, reporting that Leonardo UK is notable for producing laser targeting components for F-35 fighter jets, used extensively by the Israeli military in Gaza.
We've done a lot of work finding out more about the links that Leonardo have in the city, and I think what we see, as is often the case with arms companies, fossil fuel companies, is that they're doing a lot of work to try and clean up their image, when we know that actually this is a company that profits from war and profits from destruction. So, for example, we have seen in the city Leonardo hosting events with primary schools. We have seen Leonardo advertising on trams and buses, something we're putting a stop to with our advertising and sponsorship policy as well. But most egregiously, we've seen them using public land to test their communications equipment. We discovered late last year that Leonardo was using the council's parks and green space to test some of its communications equipment. Managed to bring forward a motion which saw that practice banned, but the reason why we were able to get that commitment made within the council's rules which govern the use of parks and green space was precisely because there was such a large public outcry about the fact that actually, the city council was at that point in time facilitating arms companies being able to use public land and public space in that way, which was completely unacceptable. So again, we've been saying very clearly, this sort of company does not fit with our ideas about what we want to see for the future of the world, and it's really inappropriate for public space to be given away to companies like this so that they can clean up their image.
Now, while Winter Olympic premium partner Eni is currently being sued by Greenpeace Italy and others, Leonardo is the target of legal action by the Italian NGO Un Ponte Per, who argue that, given the state interest in Leonardo, and given that Article 11 of the Italian Constitution repudiates military action as a means for the settlement of international disputes, how can it legally sell weapons to a country at war like Israel? For Ben Parker, politics and big business are lagging behind public awareness in their attitude towards fossil fuel producers and arms manufacturers.
I think it's definitely the case that members of the public are ahead of the curve on this. It is the beginning of the end of the era of oil and gas, and I think that the sooner that the large corporations, fossil fuel companies, realise that the game is up, the better. And I do think it is, it's our responsibility as citizens, as people that live in this world, as people that want to hand something over to future generations to make those arguments and continue to say that actually as a city, and this is definitely how I see my role as a councillor, as an elected member, is to say that as a city we're not a welcoming place for arms companies, we're not a welcoming place for fossil fuel companies. We're a city that wants to be thinking really positively and progressively about the future, and the vision that fossil fuel companies have, the vision that arms companies have, is completely incompatible with that.
Imagine what the Olympics would look like if they took the same approach. Instead, the question is this: where does their involvement with Leonardo, the world's 13th biggest arms manufacturer, with revenues of $18 billion in 2024 and orders of $21 billion, leave the Olympic truce and the Games' commitment to building a better and more peaceful world through sport and the Olympic ideal?